The 2021 World Pancreatic Cancer Day campaign is one of our biggest tools to really help build global awareness for this devastating disease. So what's coming up next is a preview of the 2021 campaign. And I'd like to welcome up here onto the stage Jess Abelson from Purple Our World in Australia. And Jess is the chair also of the World Pancreatic Cancer Day Committee, working with a whole host of people who've been working with her, along with Craig McAnt of Native Marketing, who's helped put on the whole of this conference, but also is working for the World Pancreatic Cancer Day. So together they will give you an overview of this year's campaign elements and answer any questions that you may have. So over to you, Jess and Craig.
Thanks, Diana. That's great.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much to Bryony. Well, I honestly don't think there's a dry eye. I'm got tears in my eyes, and it really is a huge inspiration for all of us to hear that story. And we're so glad that we can see you and that you are sharing that. So thank you so much. As Diana said, you are one of our inspirations for this 2021 campaign. So we might jump straight into that. So welcome everyone. As mentioned, I'm Jess. I'm the co-founder of Purple Our World in Australia, and I'm also the chair of the World Pancreatic Cancer Day Committee. Before we do get started, I just do want to acknowledge Craig and your incredible team for all the hard work. Any request our committee had, you got onto it straight away, and nothing was ever too hard or ever too much of an ask, and we appreciate you endlessly. And also to Jenny, nothing would happen without you. So thank you. Today we're going to just take you through how the evolution of the 2021 campaign came about. We're going to show you some brand assets, which we're very excited about. We're going to explain to you how we're going to be doing the 2021 campaign. We're going to show you a sneak preview of the video, and then we're just going to take you through how we're going to move from now in September through to November 18. And then obviously we'll open for any Q&As, and also acknowledge the sponsors once again. Thank you. None of this would be happening without your support. So the 2020 campaign, as you all know, we moved away from demanding better to highlighting the importance of time. You know, everyone in this virtual room understands the importance of time when it comes to pancreatic cancer. There's the all-important element of early detection, but there's also the precious amount of time that we get with our loved ones when they are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, or the extra time we get if they are diagnosed early enough for treatment and surgery. The campaign had a tremendous impact last year, and we know that messaging works when it is reinforced. So as a committee, we decided to build on that theme and looking at appreciating the time together, which we know as a coalition we have missed so much over the past couple of years. So on that, I'm going to pass over to Craig to take you through all the exciting stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jess, also for your leadership on this committee. It has been a great team effort throughout the whole year and last year as well, and I'm excited to share what we have done. So we always start with goals, and as you can see, we try to keep it pretty simple. The goals for 2021 were to continue our focus on time as the key message for the campaign. As Jess said, it works, it's important, and we want to keep running with that. But we also need to refresh the creative elements and the assets just so that we can make them stand out a little bit more, but also tweak it a little bit this year to help increase conversations, help people start talking more about pancreatic cancer. And then lastly, to add a little bit more of an emotional edge to it to start to humanize more of the pancreatic cancer message. So those were the three goals that we went through. But we also know that COVID is still around. And we were just talking the other day that it seems that in some ways 2020 didn't even happen. It either went very fast or very slow, depending on the day of the week that you talk to somebody. But we also know that we're coping with the new normal, and that by using our digital connections, we can hopefully talk a little bit more about time and get people to talk about time using social media and using their web communications. And so it is still about time. Time is still the foundation of our message for 2021. And we're going to continue with the theme of It's About Time. And we've created a slightly different logo lockup. And as you'll see as we go through these slides, that there is a horizontal version like you see here, and as well as a vertical version to give us more flexibility in how we use it. I'll go through a couple of points about the logo itself, just so you can notice some of the changes. Number one is that we're maintaining the clock references, that the small tick marks will stay. We've introduced a conversation line, kind of a talk bubble line that we'll build off of for other elements in the campaign. And we also, we've eliminated the kite ribbon to help really keep the focus on time. We felt that as we were developing this logo, when we had the kite and the clock and the talk, it became a lot too complicated, a lot more complicated. And so we started to clean it up a little bit. But again, it is about time. It's about time for all of these types of things that we want to focus on. It's time to know the symptoms. It's time to appreciate every moment you have with your loved ones. It's time for more patient advocacy. It's time to wear purple and light it purple. It's time to focus on early detection. And in this campaign, we also want to have it be time to tell your story, time to share your story. And you're going to see a lot more about this later on, but one of the key campaign elements is about sharing our stories and taking the time to share our stories. But before we do that, we want to just introduce some of the graphic elements so that you'll know what's coming out, so that you have things to work with and to build from. So one of the things that you're going to see is that we have 3 background palettes this year. I know it may seem small, but it is helpful when you have a new color on our palette this year. So the yellow works really well with the purple. So we'll have a couple different purples. And then you'll also notice that there is a kind of a dot pattern on the background, which we wanted to help symbolize the passage of sand through an hourglass. Some of the other elements that you'll get will be different colors of our conversation line that you can use in social media as part of your own creative. We also have a full conversation bubble, and you'll see how that becomes a really great way to capture and showcase messages. So for example, it's about time, early detection of pancreatic cancer saves lives, hashtag WPCD, it's about time to raise awareness. And these are very easy for, the elements are very easy for everyone to use in your own language, and they work universally around the world. It's also a great way to just include your own organization's logo, to start making it more co-branded with your groups. We also have kept the same icons for risks and symptoms for the most part. We just cleaned them up a little bit. Last year they were in circles, and this year we're going to be using them both in circles and in the rectangles. And I think it's also important to know that we have changed the language a little bit on jaundice based on input from the committee, just to clarify the description of it. And also we've added in the risk factors area, we've added a heavy alcohol as a risk factor. That was another thing that came up during our conversations. So you'll start to see those as well. The poster for 2021 very boldly involves the talk bubble coming out of World Pancreatic Cancer Day. We've introduced a new language line at the top of our poster that talks about that these symptoms may have more common causes. I know this is very small and you won't be able to read it, but the poster is actually large, and hopefully you'll be able to print it out and get those to general practitioner offices or other places in your communities that could use this information. And we've also included a QR code on this poster. It seems that during COVID, QR codes have made a resurgence. And so the idea of the QR code taking people directly to our website for more specific information and more in-depth information about the symptoms and risks. So of course, because of the type of campaign we're doing, digital presence will be our main focus, specifically using our social media as well as hopefully your social media. We will obviously use all of our owned assets, our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter. And we also will be selecting, we'll be promoting with paid social media in 5 countries around the world. Last year we did 5. This year we're doing 5. However, this year, one of the 5 countries will be selected at random from all the people who have submitted their It's About Time stories for our website. And we'll get into that a bit in a minute, but we are going to drop the link so that anyone out there who has a story to submit, please, you'll see it in the chat link, and you can click on that and submit your story, because once we get all the stories in by the end of this month, we'll be selecting a winner to receive a $2,000 social media campaign in your country. And it's very helpful to promote awareness. Continuing about the conversation about our digital presence, it's also important to know that we have been working on rebuilding the entire World Pancreatic Cancer Coalition website. Last year, you may remember, we just did a new day section of the website, but in 2021, we have been working on a whole new coalition website, which will be coming out in the middle of October. And of course, World Pancreatic Cancer Day will feature prominently on that new website on the main slider. One of the things that we really wanted to do was to just clean it up and make the communication more bold, but also, as I mentioned earlier, make it more human and have a more engaging user experience on the website. So we'll be including more photographs, more coalition profiles, as well as making everything easier to work on the back end when we have changes and updates to do. And as I mentioned, the It's About Time portion of the website will continue to use the conversation bubble and the let's get people talking about pancreatic cancer. And as I mentioned, more of this will come in the middle of October. Earlier, I talked about stories, and we want to make the campaign in 2021 very human and very real. We heard today from Bryony an amazing story. Maybe she will click on the link and get us a story from her as well to put on the website. But as you see, we've already collected about 12 or 15 from coalition members. And I'm going to just go through a couple of them and read them out, or parts of them out. So Natalie, thank you for sending in your story. What happens when you will click on the website is it'll take you to a page, and this is how the story will look on the website. And Natalie's story is about Helen Boisson, and she says that regarding time is of the essence with the pancreatic cancer diagnosis. Through my own experience with my husband's journey with this dreaded disease, I became very aware that every second counts when you're dealing with pancreatic cancer. And Federica, thank you for submitting a story about Massimo. For Massimo, the concept of time is very important. During these past years, he focused on accomplishing important projects with his son. You can find them traveling, biking, flying in a small plane, skiing, climbing. Massimo listened to his body, and the early detection allowed him to go through surgery first and adjuvant therapy later. He is still under treatment, and his attitude to life is making everything possible. And lastly, thank you, Megan. Oops, I went too fast. Thank you, Megan, for submitting the story about your father. This story is about my dad, Brian Richard Jones. Thank you for your time. Time is so precious, something we never had with our dad. 120 days is all it took to take my dad. Do I have regrets? Yes. If I only had pushed the doctors more, if only I had demanded more testing. All these appointments take time. Time is all my father deserved. Just one more birthday, just one more Father's Day, just one more Christmas, just one more I love you. Please, we just want all of your stories. It makes it all very human. And so we'll, again, keep dropping the link into the chat. It only takes a few minutes to submit a story, and we can really build this out and start to tell these stories around the world. And so, of course, other elements that you'll be seeing will be parts of our social media campaign. We're going to be introducing, and already have on our owned social media, new images for Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube that focus on the November 18th, 2021. We also have new profile images that you can download and use for your own profiles, or we'll be sharing those out to the world so that they can also download. And for those of you who share a story, you can even use that as your profile picture. I shared my story, it's about time, and those will be the Facebook frames. Some of the other elements that we will provide will be individual new symptom static posts, as well as some of the digital GIFs and small videos, and just a bunch of assets that you'll be able to use and translate. And then, of course, we also have done some updating of the video. It's really important because video is such a powerful tool in the world of social. I don't know if any of you remember last year's video, but because it was so effective, we are using it again in 2021 with some minor tweaks. Last year, we had 2.3 million total views of the It's About Time campaign video, and which was a 35% increase over 2019. And 2019 already had a huge increase over 2018 as well. So the amount of awareness and impact that we're having with this video is really important. We've made some small changes to it, but essentially the video is the same. And I have to do a little minor switcheroo here to play the video. So bear with me for a second while I unshare my screen and share the video. One more minute. Okay, play now. Okay, now let me turn that off and bring our screen back up. And there we go. So as I mentioned, it was the same video, but we sweetened it up and refreshed it with some of the yellow and some of the other design elements for 2021. Oops. Once again, the video will be made available, translated into multiple languages. This year we added Slovenian to our list, so we now have 12 languages that the video will be available in, and that will be launching on November 1st, World Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. We'll be making that video available as well in the middle of October, so that if anybody would like to have the raw file and translate it into their own language or use one of these languages, you will have the ability to do that. Of course, all of the more traditional guides and support that we have provided in the past are either already have already been distributed or will be available during October. The very popular Light It Purple campaign, of course, will once again be out. We've already promoted that with our newsletter, and many countries are already lining up, and many of our sponsors are also working to continue to light it purple. It's a really great way of creating awareness and getting people talking. Over the past year, we have been really steadily working to build a more robust newsletter communication platform, making sure that everybody's signed up for the newsletter. And if you're not, or if you're not reading it, it's really important that you do, especially over the next few months, because this is where we communicate a tremendous amount of information for World Pancreatic Cancer Day. So, for example, in the August newsletter, not only do we have our monthly coalition member highlight, but we also promoted the training for Remo for this conference so that you could sign up for a training session. We made available the Light It Purple guides and the Light It Purple letter templates. We also had the proclamation guide and template available in the August newsletter, as well as a link to share your story and help us build up for our campaign. And again, we will be dropping into the chat right now the link to sign up for our newsletter or to update your information in the newsletter. Oftentimes people's emails have changed or they want to put a new email in. So please do that, because over the next 60 days, there will be a lot of information that's being communicated through the newsletters. So speaking of the next 60 days, obviously you've probably all been thinking about this a lot already, but we're in September and it's time to continue with your plans. And I can't say enough, but we're going to keep asking for stories. So please send us stories. The links are in there or will be in the chat. We're also going to be putting 2 links in the chat. One link is for your organization, for your coalition to submit stories of the people in your kind of constituency. But there's going to be a second link which doesn't talk about the prize of winning the social media campaign that you can send out to other people outside of your organization. So if you just want to ask somebody to submit their story, you can go ahead and do that with the second link. In October, as I mentioned, there will be the time frame to download the WPCD assets and start getting your graphics all prepared and lined up. You can also, in October, start reaching out to local media and influencers and start letting them know about the Stories campaign and how important it is for them to, maybe even some of the media or influencers have stories that they could share and tell as well, which will really help grow the campaign. As we head into November, and it's the beginning of Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, start to share everything widely on your social channels. We really want to focus just on 2 hashtags for 2021, hashtag WPCD and hashtag It's About Time. We can just keep those focus. We're going to concentrate more of our messaging and more of our awareness around those. And then for November, as we gear up for the 18th, it's about time. It's that time, and it's about time to make it all happen. And so right now, I'm going to turn it back over to Jess, and to finish up, here you go, Jess.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig, for taking us through all of that. So just to sum everything up, we're going to do another plug for the stories. So many of us in this virtual room have been personally affected by pancreatic cancer. We've got survivors, we've got supporters, we've got caregivers. But there are people working in advocacy, research, medical professionals. We need to know why you do what you do, and that's where your story comes into play. And as you heard when Craig read those stories, it makes you feel something, and that's what we need the wider community to do. We need them to feel our stories. So that's your first job. Your second job is to share the 2021 video beginning in early November. And here we just need to remind you that there is an expectation that every member organization of the coalition shares at least 1 asset on World Pancreatic Cancer Day. The video is our hero piece, so that is our preference. And the third thing is to engage with the WPCD social channels. So if you're not following the official coalition channels, please do so. and then engage with them. Share the posts, like and love and comment on the posts, and then encourage your own networks to share them too. And as Craig said, the approved hashtags WPCD and It's About Time. And as I mentioned earlier, and as Julie mentioned in the opening session on day one, the strength in this coalition lies in the global representation. And it's something that the World Pancreatic Cancer Day Committee is very conscious of. This is a global campaign that needs to represent every organization, every patient, and every person touched by pancreatic cancer around the world. And as you can see, we really do have global representation on this committee. So, you know, you've got Fedi from Italy, Kate from Canada, Kerry from the US, Lou from the United Kingdom, and then this year we welcomed Iga from Poland and Lisa from the US, and we have Louis from Gibraltar. So it really is a representative, a global representative of you. I would like to mention that sadly we're saying goodbye to Kate this year, who is finishing up with Craig's cause. And Kate, we thank you so much for your valuable input, and you just made us laugh at every meeting. Kate, if I remember correctly, you started on the committee way back in the beginning, and your voice will be missed. And again, we thank you so much. But the committee, we meet once a month to discuss the campaign and how we can improve it year on year. And we take our job very, very seriously to make sure that you are represented properly. But because we're so united against this cause, we also manage to find the fun, and we laugh and we enjoy each other's company. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank all of my committee. This really is a hugely joint effort. And just mention, we're always on the lookout for new members. We do have some gaps to fill. So when the feedback survey comes out, please do feel free to express your interest. We want to get as wide a voice as possible on here.
Couldn't agree more. And there's going to be a lot of work for the rest of this campaign as we get into November, but then also we always start planning right away for the next campaign using the feedback that we get, and the next committee members we will add will be part of a whole new campaign for 2022. So at this time, we'd like to open it up for questions. And I know that if you're looking at your screen in the top right, you will see the Q&A button. If you have any questions that we can answer, please put them in the Q&A tab, and Jenny, Jess, and myself will do our best to answer any of those. You can ask anonymously as well. You don't even have to sign your name to it. Well, I'm glad it was super clear, because there's no questions. And we'll wait here for a few minutes and just again reinforce that the main goals this year were about making sure that we focus on time and try to dimensionalize time in many different ways and use that as leverage to talk to different audiences. So you have the assets now to do that and to create conversations around. The video will help as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing my inbox fill up with stories from everyone on this call. I see there's 71 people who are in the audience right now. So first of all, congratulate yourselves for being here and being at this meeting, and it'll be helpful to get as many of you to submit stories as possible. I did see a question pop up. What do you recommend we provide to television stations who are seeking images and B-roll for WPCD? That's a great question. The only footage that we have is this video. There'll be not only the full video that you saw, but there also will be 4 individual vignettes of the 4 primary symptoms that were highlighted. Each of those will be a pull-out vignette, and often those can make really good B-roll. There is also the YouTube channel for World Pancreatic Cancer Day that has previous years B-roll and footage that is all still active. And so you can peruse that and see what you can find there if any of that feels appropriate. Good question, Mark. B-roll is just extra footage that a newscaster might use while they're talking about pancreatic cancer, just something to play in the background. That's what the B-roll footage would be. How can we leverage the news reality of COVID to our advantage with this effort? I think that's a really great question, and I'll give you my thoughts, and Jess, certainly chime in if you have any thoughts from the other side of the world. But anytime news folks get to talk about this, the notion that time is either going really fast or going really slow because of a thing like COVID, it's an opportunity for us to talk about, use it as a leverage to talk about time. But I also think secondarily, the idea that, similar to what AstraZeneca has been talking about with their new normal same cancer story, there is a lot of diagnoses, a lot of treatments, a lot of things that are getting put off because of COVID, and it's having an impact on all types of cancer and all types of disease, not just pancreatic cancer. So I don't know, Jess, if you can add anything else.
No, I think the point also you made before, so many people are talking about COVID, about losing the time they have with their families and the connection they have with their families, especially those who are locked in different countries around the world. And anytime we can speak about that and missing out on making memories, it's just another angle we can take.
Right. Okay. So I thank you all. I think I'm not seeing any other questions. So just be on the lookout for future information through the newsletter, as well as on the website when it gets launched. But more importantly, you'll be seeing all the guides coming out. So you'll have kind of a countdown clock on what to do and how to do it for the next several bits.